You're listening to The Politics Show with Will Walker, Tom Drysdale, and Jay Mann on Burton Radio.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
Welcome to The Politics Show.
Hey,
back again on another Tuesday.
Yes, we're back. And if only that button seems to get more ironic every week.
It really does.
I actually now question whether or not we should be using it because it's not almost that funny anymore.
No.
It's actually pretty mad because it's been another week in politics.
Yeah, well, is it possible to have a week without Donald?
I think we should try. I think one week we should really try and focus on not him. But unfortunately, he seems to, or his administration seemed to do something completely new and awful and terrible on a day-to-day basis. So it's pretty difficult not to talk about it. As most people will know, Donald Trump has been in the news for multiple different reasons this week, including slagging off his allies and their apparent sacrifices they haven't made for the United States, including that of the British, which he then rode back after he got very sternly told off by pretty much every single political party in the United Kingdom.
Apart from his friend Nigel.
Yeah, because, we won't go there. And then, as this was happening, on the ground in Minneapolis, Minnesota, there was the second of a shooting, this time of Alex Peretti, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, who was shot and killed. Once again, very similar to the Renee Good killing. Both of them are extremely tragic. But this one's I think this one's got more to it because there's a lot more the situation is just so much more bigger in terms of there's a Second Amendment thing here, and the Republicans actually using the excuse of him having a gun, even though he's allowed to have a gun, but being the reason as to why he was shot. But then the video completely contradicted him once again what the administration had said happened. Yeah. There was an article in the Atlantic which decried this now as fascism. And that conversation is now coming, I think, in American politics. But I think we should start in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Do you guys think?
I think so. I think so because, there's actually many places you could start. But why not? It's as good as anywhere, isn't it?
I think it is as good as anywhere.
Let's be honest. The Atlantic article sounds about. I didn't read that, but that sounds quite fitting. And that conversation should be coming very quickly, and it sounds like people are becoming more and more aware to it in Minneapolis. You're right, Tom. It's just as harrowing, that video, just as scary, that video, as the last one, if not more so. And it does. This is the irony about it. The Republicans are big defenders of the Second Amendment in America, but here's a guy who's licensed to carry a gun, and he's killed in cold blood by the state, and he's clearly not carrying not unless it's hidden away in his car or something, but he's clearly not carrying a gun at the time when he's been shot.
That was the interesting thing, because before any sort of video had surfaced and was viewed, the administration, both Kristi Noem, who came out and said this person was a danger to ICE agents, Gregory Bavino, said that he was going to assassinate them and kill them. Stephen Miller said this guy was a domestic terrorist. This was retweeted by J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States of America. And this was before we got the video confirmation. And the video came from a whole multitude of angles, which, if people haven't seen the video, shows the victim, Alex Peretti, going to try and help a woman who was pushed over by ICE agents, then being dragged to the ground whilst he had his phone out, not a gun, by the way. It was his phone that he had in his hand. He gets pepper sprayed and kicked whilst down. Then there's a clip, there's a part of the clip which appears to show one of the ICE agents taking the gun off the man. And that at that point, then you hear the shots, and then you hear multiple shots. It said that he was shot 10 times whilst on the ground. And it just it's incredible to see the administration almost like blatantly paint the picture and poison the well of what's happened before there's been any investigation, before anything's happened. And it's almost as if like they're willing, and it just goes to show that they're willing to lie with impunity. They don't care. They're happy lying about this. I don't know if you guys saw the video. I mean, you know, it is pretty harrowing to watch. I would possibly argue it's even worse than the Rene Good shooting. But it's made a lot of people question Republicans' morals because, as I said, the argument being used was, oh, he had a gun. But this is the same party that supported Kyle Rittenhouse, who had a gun at a protest. And they're saying, well, you shouldn't bring guns to protests. But he wasn't breaking any laws, and he was both carrying out his First Amendment and Second Amendment rights. I don't know what you think about it, Will.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I don't have differences on First and Second Amendment like I think we all do. But the overall point is correct. He's a guy who you can quite clearly see in the video because I've seen it. He's been cornered. He's been circled, like you say. His phone's out. There's no immediate danger to these SS style thugs that are going round the streets of American cities, and yet he's been shot. He's not been shot once. He's been shot 9 times, like you say. So this is particularly brutal. And if I was in the US, you would be scared for your safety. Now, under the regime, anybody who holds a difference of opinion, I think, should start to feel worried about their safety. But the only way they can do that is the only way they can respond to it is by people doing exactly what they're doing in Minneapolis, and that's standing up to them in the strongest way possible. And the conversation about fascism is definitely justified. There is no question. I think if you look at historical parallels here, you're starting to see similarities with fascist regimes and what's starting to unfold in America. So I got no time for it at all. No time for it at all. It's absolutely abhorrent, and I don't think the US's allies are being strong enough actually on this. They're not being strong enough in their condemnation, and they're not. Imagine if that was Russia on the streets of Russia, or China, or anywhere else that was hostile. What Western governments would be saying about that. I think they should be a lot stronger on it.
And I think there's space to call out the people who are blatantly lying about it.
Absolutely.
And that's not just in the administration, that's also in captive media. There are so many captive media people, and particularly what I find in the YouTube space, which we're live streaming on, by the way. If you're listening on Burton Radio, we can watch us do this. Wee little plug there.
Scary.
I could turn anything. I could turn anything into a plug. But there's people like, I've seen Michael Knowles, for example, lie about the Rene Good shooting, and I've seen people like that who've got large followings online lie about this, and it's no different to having state-controlled media. It's no different because it's the same. The outcome is the same. It's propaganda. Mm-hmm. And they're propagandizing what is an event, and they're literally telling you to ignore what you see, ignore how you feel about how you see this, and it's utterly and blatantly disgusting. The one angle I'm absolutely just completely ridiculously annoyed by is the fact that it seems that Trump is going to be stepping down from this and is going to allow Minnesota's local law enforcement to investigate this properly. I mean, how much investigation can be done because the crime scene hasn't been preserved and all that, begs to be seen, right? And we still don't know who was involved. The Border Patrol agents that were involved in this shooting had been moved away, and that was confirmed by Gregory Bovino, who was also since moved from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm guessing because of the disaster of the last couple of weeks, the Trump administration are trying to save a little face by putting Tom Homan, the border czar, in charge there now. But Trump and his administration are allowing an investigation now by local law enforcement because obviously no one trusts the feds anymore. And the main reason for that, I think, is probably pressure from places like the NRA and pressure from those groups that fund the Republican Party via gun rights, because it's the main difference between that and Rene Good is that a gun was mentioned as the reason for this. When it was a car, there's not going to be an investigation. That's the weapon, so it's fine. When it's a gun and it's a legally allowed thing to have, all of a sudden, Trump's backing down here. And I think in both cases, this should be investigated. In both cases, they're disgusting. In both cases, this is a real big problem. And this is happening not to, as Trump and his administration would say, to illegals and murderers and all that they would, paint these people with this brush, but to US citizens who, in this case, I mean, this guy had no criminal record. He was a nurse, an ICU nurse. He spent his career since sort of 2021 helping people. I don't know what your kind of perspective on this is, Jay. I think, again, I suppose you've heard it through me, but I mean, what's your kind of perspective on this?
I think I did actually see the video as well. It's cropped up in my feed somewhere.
Yeah.
So the politics is getting to me somehow.
Yes.
I don't know
Yes,
why.
it's catching you, look.
I know, yeah. It's finding me.
After all this
Searching me
time.
out.
That meta algorithm's listening to the politics show and it's found
It
you.
is. It's hunting me down. Yeah. Well done, Zux. You win this one. It's just terrifying. It just continues to terrify me more than anything. I mean, the gun side of it on this one is kind of, I mean, that muddies the waters for Trump, and it's a weird kind of consequence of this happening. So maybe you'll get more pressure from that side. But I mean, I wouldn't want to be anywhere over there right now. I think anyone is scared of what's going to happen next, because it doesn't look like after a shooting that's, a completely fumbled situation before, you'd think there'd be a clampdown on these people. You'd think the last thing we'd hear in a week or so's time later is there's been another one, because, there should have been some enforcement on these people. The last thing that should be happening is just more American citizens getting gunned down in the streets. Like, that should not be a continued thing that happens. But here we are. And,
of course there was actually a third shooting, but the other person didn't die.
Right.
A Venezuelan guy was shot in the leg.
Oh, right, okay.
Also in Minneapolis. And a car full of young children was tear gassed.
Wow.
I heard about this. This is, and didn't the baby stop breathing in that situation? And they had to administer CPR to one of the youngest kids in that car. Which is, honestly, the kid survived. But imagine that's the consequence of the way in which you're persecuting and perpetrating this operation, and what message that sends to other people about how your administration works around these things. I mean, the question I have for you two is, do you think there's going to be any sort of consequence to any of these actions? We've seen Bovino's now been moved out of Minneapolis. He was the guy that was running the operation. So he's actually been moved out. So I think the administration has kind of realised that this guy's not up to it. I mean, you should see the photos of him dressing almost SS-like in a long coat and the haircut and all that. But Tom Homan's now come in. But is there going to be anyone else that was going to be held accountable? Do you think there's going to be any justice had? Or
No, because the people who've committed both these crimes deserve to be locked up. But there won't be. No, he will just move use his phrase. He'll just move the cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he'll do.
So you don't think someone like Kirsty Noem, for example, who is in charge currently, and to be honest, looks far and away out of her depth in terms of running organisation.
But don't forget, the country is America itself is run by somebody who's out of his depth at running.
Yeah.
he's just making crazy decisions. He's not a politician or a diplomat. So why should he have people? Why he doesn't associate himself with people that are in any way competent enough to be involved in politics? They are just dictators.
And the other question here, I mean, there's a bill currently going through the houses around funding for DHS. I mean, the majority of DHS is going to be funded regardless because that was part of the big, beautiful bill. It's going to be like the most funded federal law enforcement agency there is in America, which is, I mean, it's going to be more funded than the FBI, which is just insane. But there is still some funding that is going through, and the Democrats are potentially looking to use this as kind of leverage to get some sort of oversight and control over the DHS and ICE in particular. Is there anything that the Democrats can do at this point, or is this an issue that you think they need to be running on in the midterms? Supposing the midterms are free and fair.
There's another.
I mean, Pam Bondi has just said that she's trying to get the voter rolls out of Minnesota and Minneapolis, and they're looking to get all the voter rolls and all the voter data from each and every state, which suggests that they want to possibly call out certain people on those rolls and say that they're illegitimate voters, but we'll see. Is it, do you run on this issue?
Well, I would if I was in an opposition party, because think how you could even if you don't get out don't turn the Republican core vote. What you could do is quite easily capture swing voters and also try and capture young people's votes, new voters, the ethnic minority votes that you lost. Some of those that were lost could be won back. I think there's a lot of traction to be had, and also it could come to a point very quickly where his own party, where the Republicans also start to turn on him as well. So you would have to build pressure. If I was the opposition in America, that's what I'd be doing.
I'm just going to get an opinion poll here for ICE because I remember they were pretty low down. So let's have a look. What do Americans think? Independent are saying that 56% of registered voters are strongly or somewhat registered voters strongly. So in August 2024, they actually voted strongly or somewhat favoured mass deportations. However, they found that ICE has just had a 34% approval rating. This is according to a Daily Mail JL Partners poll. And has a 4 percentage point drop since last month. So since the Minneapolis, Minnesota operation began, which obviously began on the back of the Nick Shirley video regarding Somali daycare fraud, which, by the way, in many cases was prosecuted back in 2018 in the first Trump administration and under the Biden administration. Do you think we'll see any of this elsewhere as well? Is there going to be other cities where this happens?
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. Voice is gone now. Quite possible. Yeah, definitely. It really is. Nothing would shock you anymore.
Okay.
Nothing would do with him, would it? It's just it's fastly becoming a fascist state.
I think there's somewhat most Europeans and UK people agree that I'm kind of glad I don't live there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Glad I don't live there, and it's not a place that I'd want to visit because of how the country's being run.
Yeah,
Got nothing to do with that. There's not good people, because there's shining examples of that in Mr. Mamdani for a start. But would you want to go there? I wouldn't.
No,
I wouldn't. Mind you probably wouldn't. They'd probably be listening into this program, and we'd be arrested on arrival or something daft like that. You know.
Shall we do it? I want to get deported.
I always have trouble at the airports anyway, to be honest.
I wonder why.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I random check every time. Random check. Yeah. Very strange.
I had a period of time where I kept getting checked,
Really?
to be fair. Yeah. No, it was every time I was leaving Spain, Valencia Airport. For some reason, I think for like 3 or 4 times in a row, I got like pulled over for like random checks, and they went through everything. I was just like, what do you think I'm taking back from me, man? I had like a fwet in my bag, and they're like, what's this? So it's fwet. That's pretty much it, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously condolences go out to the families of Renegade and Alex Peretti. It's a horrible thing.
Yeah, horrible
hope
situation.
we'll hope that the situation does end up getting better, and unlikely as it is, the Trump administration sees the light.
Oh, he must. Well, whether he sees any light, he'll just move on to the next thing, that next pot he can stir, won't it be? Really, the next people he can upset, because you've even seen it overseas, haven't you? Now the NATO forces comment, you know, they stayed a little back from the front line in Afghanistan.
Really?
Yeah, you know, that's so far from inaccurate. It would be unbelief. 457 British soldiers killed, thousands injured with life-changing injuries. You know, and he wonders why he gets phone calls from the Prime Minister and from every other political figure condemning it, apart from Nigel. And there was even reports in one paper over the weekend that one of the reasons why he sort of rode back is because the King phoned him. King Charles phoned him.
Well, he has a son that went out to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Who saw it firsthand and made a statement on it. I mean, you know, one of the things that British soldiers did in Afghanistan was hold down like the Helmand province, which was an extremely deadly part of the Afghan war. There was a large amount of fighting in that area, in that region. So I'm not surprised the Kings had a call and said, I think you're wrong and you're disparaging the name of many people from a variety of different countries who went out to do what they felt was, you know, their service for their country. And you can agree, you know, rightly or wrongly, whether we should have ever been there in the first place.
That's a different debate, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no one questions that if you went out there and did your job, like, you deserve to be recognised for that.
At the end of the day, they're brave, you know, to do that. They're young adults, young people, young men, young women who've gone out there. They're not the reasons why they've gone out there. They're not involved in the diplomacy behind it all. They're not involved in the overall issue why they were there. They've just been asked to go, and they've done it.
Yeah.
They've done it. They're not at fault. It's the same as in any war, isn't it? The innocent men that were fighting in the trenches in World War One, they weren't to blame for why World War One started on either side.
Yeah.
And the same in the Second World War. The innocent soldiers, they weren't the victims.
No.
They weren't the cause. They were the victims of it. Ultimately, they were including the ones that survived. They still had to go through the trauma. So his comment's deeply, deeply wrong and deeply offensive, but it's no more than you expect.
Yeah.
Sadly.
I do think that, like, Trump every now and then hits a ceiling with how much he's so used to living in that sort of world of, like, conning and, like, kind of just, like, chatting about whatever and kind of making stuff up as he goes along. But, like, you know, there's often times where it's like people just have facts about this stuff. You can't just like pull a figure out of nowhere or be like, well, this didn't happen and this did happen, because there's people there that are like, I was there and I know what happened and we have all this evidence.
Exactly.
And, you know, oftentimes you do see that come out, because it's like you can't just lie about everything. Eventually, the truth's going to reveal itself.
And the ideal situation of that is the BBC and the other media outlets do a report on what in his comments. Who do they turn to? Veterans.
Yeah.
People who've been injured. You've got guys coming on the 6 o'clock news who are double amputees coming because they were involved in a roadside bomb or whatever. happened to them out there, but they were double amputees as a result of a conflict, not through sitting at home.
No, yeah.
And he's got previous Trump on this. I don't know if you guys remember the John McCain comments when John McCain was criticising Trump and said that John McCain wasn't a Vietnam War hero because he was a prisoner of war. I mean, this guy was held for years by the Viet Cong.
Yeah, he was,
and obviously went through pretty horrific stuff being a prisoner of war. But, you know, he actually went to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Donald Trump famously didn't go to Vietnam on the account of his bone spurs, which most people would argue possibly draft dodging.
Yeah.
And again, you mentioned World War II and World War I and World War II in your reference. Multiple times his administration and him himself has said, "Oh, you'd be speaking German if it wasn't for us." Basically,
that was not so long ago, wasn't it?
No, and
you'd be speaking German. That's what he said.
I mean, and not saying again that the sacrifice of American troops in those wars was not significant, but at the same time, it's just coming from a place of condensation, condescension, which I just think is beneath the office of a president. It's beneath how he should be acting.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't really he's never acted like a president, though, has he? It's never really been his thing. He still is the Donald Trump of, TV fame. Like, it's just the inherited a bunch of money kind of see you on the one scene of Home Alone 2 kind of guy, That's like, he's never, like, when has he ever reached, like, when has he done anything that sort of, seems in any way presidential? That's what's so strange about this. Like, he's almost a cartoon character, But like, what's terrifying is he is a cartoon character. But he's in control of a country. So this is where we are.
Buttons.
Not just any country. The country with the world's largest military.
Yeah.
He's got the country with the world's largest economy. He's in charge of the country that allegedly, by most metrics and statistics, is one of the most powerful on the planet.
Yeah.
With the ability to change the course of how the world is heading and create conflict. And we're seeing this with his statement on Greenland and the way he's acting in Venezuela, and now his statements here towards his allies. Bear in mind, these are comments he's making towards the countries that have traditionally stood with the United States. He's disparaging NATO allies. Only one country's ever triggered Article 5, which is we're all under attack because we're under attack. And it's the United States after 9/11. And guess what? NATO countries stepped up and militarized, mobilized their forces in defense of the traditional ally.
Yeah, but they stayed a little back.
Well, cool. Well, Donald Trump would know a little bit about that, as he said, with Vietnam and all that. He'd know a little bit about staying back.
Could you imagine, though? Imagine if you got sent to Vietnam, like, you get down there, boots are on the ground, you get shown who's in your squad, and Donald Trump is there. You imagine having to go on the front line with Donald Trump. Like, I can't imagine. It's just like what the overwhelming amount of feelings you would be having right there.
Yeah.
Well, could you rely on Donald Trump to cover your back?
No, not at all. Not at all. But somebody who all this did put in a difficult position, I know I touched on it a couple of times passively, but Nigel Farage, Donald's comments, especially about the British military, put him in a very difficult position. That being his friend, closely linked to Donald. He wasn't exactly the strongest of condemnations. It was more like, it's wrong, but...
I mean, I think Trump puts Farage in a rock and a hard place.
Yes.
Because we've seen that Trump can actually, talking about having impact across the world, we've seen the Trump impact affect another country's elections before, and quite famously in Canada, where it looked like for a long time the Conservatives under Pierre Poilievre were going to win that election over Justin Trudeau. Mark Carney comes in, Trump starts talking about the 51st state and how Canada's going to be, the USA, And all of a sudden, the Liberal parties have secured another term and turned around an election they were down by, and it looked like they were going to get quite roundly beaten in. Farage has got the issue of Trump continuing to talk like this makes him extremely unpopular abroad, because most Europeans are looking at Trump and going, that's embarrassing. And yet he's trying to model his party on that same sort of populist line. But also, I think the impact of Trump politically in the United Kingdom is going to be bad for Farage if Farage does take over. One thing Trump ensures, and I've never understood why Brexiteers or anyone supported Trump in this, if you're thinking about this tactically, he ensures, because of the way he treats his allies and because of how he has no consideration about historical context or actually making, supporting the traditional countries that have supported America, it pushes the United Kingdom to work more closely with the European Union. It pushes the United Kingdom to work more closely with its allies close at home. So, I mean, it makes things like European integration and possibly rejoining the European Union more likely.
You're starting to see that as well, aren't you? Especially over the last few weeks. And, of course, he's got the other dilemma of Trump's committed one of the sort of cardinal sins in British politics, in that for British politics anyway, that you, and I think it would be the same anywhere in the world, that you don't criticise the army.
Well, yeah,
and
he wouldn't do it for his own army, would he?
No, you don't. You don't criticise the army. That's one. And who wants to be associated? And who, on a political side, wants to be associated with somebody that does? Mm-hmm. But Farage has got probably an image that he's probably worked hard to get in terms of it being the anti-establishment politician. Shame it's been overshadowed by the fact he's slowly becoming the establishment party with another Tory defection.
Now, that's a segue, Will.
Isn't it, John?
That's a segue, that is. I love it. Yeah. That's a good segue, that.
Isn't it just that one? Another Tory defection, and this one is... Well, they've all been incredible, but this one's probably the best of all of them. It's Suella Braverman. Remember Suella Braverman?
How could I forget?
All her critics have second homes in Tuscany.
Yeah.
All those luxury beliefs.
Yeah.
I've still not got that. No, I think 2 years ago when that comment came out, we had this discussion. I remember saying to you, I haven't got a home.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a home. It's not mine.
Yeah.
but so never mind a second home in Tuscany.
I know.
Would be nice though, wouldn't it?
Oh, it's been beautiful.
Yeah.
I've been Tuscany. It's very nice. It's very, very, very nice.
Absolutely, it's beautiful. But this kind of false image that she presents that everybody's all middle class intellectuals from a woman who doesn't believe in multiculturalism, and and all the other things we've discussed, and from somebody who was sacked as Home Secretary for sending confidential emails to her personal email address only to be reinstated.
I think she's also famous for trying to push through what would be, in my opinion, one of the most disastrous policies in the Rwanda policy.
The Rwanda policy,
The only thing I remember her fondly for is that she fixed the passport office so you could actually get your passport quickly.
Yeah.
That is. I'll give her credit there.
Some credit for Suella.
But that is the only thing I think she'd done amongst a ridiculous barrage of just terrible stuff. But you're right. It's the latest of not just a Tory defection, but again, another former cabinet minister under previous administrations defecting over to the Reform Party. She served under the government under Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, and Rishi Sunak. That was quite a short period of time. Like, Liz Truss especially.
The irony is that Liz Truss is the one that sacked. Obviously, Sunak then sacked, didn't he? But Liz Truss was the one that sacked her.
Yeah.
For the confidential emails. So she has the indignity of being sacked by Liz Truss.
Uh-huh.
She said at the announcement, "I feel like I've come home because I believe that a better future is possible for us. I am joining Reform UK." Braverman also responded after a Conservative statement which the party said had been sent out in error, made references to her mental health.
Yes.
echoing earlier comments from Mr. Farage, said those attacks say more about them than they do about me. It's a bit pathetic, and I'm afraid it's more sorry signs of a bitter, desperate party that's in free fall.
And the Tories also repeated the spring cleaning line that we discussed about with Robert Jenrick last week. He continues to do Kemi's spring cleaning.
She's just going to use that every time until there's nobody left.
So that came out again. But of course, it was only about a year or so ago that Farage said he didn't want Braverman.
Right, yeah.
I'm pretty certain I saw a clip of Braverman saying she wouldn't leave the Conservative Party to join Reform.
Well, that's it.
Well, according to her, she said, I've been politically homeless for the best part of 2 years. I have not had the confidence in the Conservative Party, really, but I've tried to see whether it might change, try and give it some time, and its events over the last few days reached really, which has tipped me over the line. So she's she said in the Home Office as you say, same time as Robert Jenrick. I think Robert Jenrick was the second, basically, when she was in charge of the Home Office. Explaining her decision, Braverman said, loyalty demands honesty. Honesty compels you to say this today. Britain is indeed broken. She is suffering. She is not well. Immigration is out of control. Our public services are on their knees. People don't feel safe. There's a long thing here. The interesting thing about the immigration being out of control is her Home Office oversaw the largest influx of immigrants coming into the country out of any Home Office in UK history, which is ironic for her to say. But again, as you say, is this an example of Reform now becoming the establishment in form of Tories but with a different badge? And why do you think we know why all the Conservative or former Conservative cabinet ministers, etc., are defecting to Reform, but why is it Reform are accepting them all into the party at this point in time?
Well, I think the easy question for that is Reform will probably accept anybody, and the more high profile, the better. But the political aspect of this is one that I've touched on before. Is yes, this is them becoming the Tory party, or in particular Boris Johnson's Tory party 2.0. Reason why they're doing it, I think Farage has realised that he needs to surround himself with what he would perceive as competent politicians, because Reform has already proven it with local government that it has no due diligence whatsoever, and the candidates that it selects off its own back are completely inept and not fit to hold any kind of public office.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying this earlier. I mean, don't want to name names, but imagine one certain local gentleman ran for MP in this region, and that was replicated across the region itself. It would be interesting, to say the least. But you're right. I think it's an example. I keep seeing the joke made. that the IQ of both parties has increased, which is a bit of a rough one. But I mean, it is. You're right. You're right, Will. I mean, Reform need these bodies in there, because if you're going to actually put together a cabinet and a political party that's going to function in the House of Parliament, you do need people with experience, and whether they're competent or not, these people have technically on paper got the experience to be in the political party, something that Reform doesn't have with its previous members and previous politicians in there. But do you think this... I think we still need to wait before we see the impact of this, because I think this is going to turn off the kind of Reform voters that Farage would traditionally attract.
You would like to hope that is what it would do. Once people realise, I think, who it is actually has gotten over them, maybe they might just see the name and not remember the face. All of a sudden, the face reappears. I remember them. They were partying in Downing Street during lockdown. But
But do you think this attracts the more what you consider the more middle of the road conservative?
I think that would be exactly what it would do. I think it's more attracting conservative voters rather than the sorts of new wave of voters that you were starting to see go to Reform. I think it's a blatant pitch at the Tories rather than trying to get new sort of white working class voters that we were seeing.
Isn't there going to be? At what point do we tip over the edge to where it would have just been easier for Farage to join the Conservatives?
I don't think Farage would ever join the Conservatives.
No.
I do feel like
But he will make a party that is basically all the Conservatives. Do you see what I mean? Like the numbers can only go like in a certain direction for an amount of time until that's basically what he's done, right?
I've studied Farage's backstory, and he was like an arch Thatcherite, like back in his school days, and he was a huge like Thatcher
And
fan.
doing Nazi salutes.
Yes, and,
Yeah.
and potentially being anti-Semitic and racist and the like. But he was a huge Thatcherite. He was part of the Conservative Party at some point. And I think he got left. It was a bit unceremonious. But ever since he's left the Conservative Party, he's always had a little bit of an axe to grind with them.
Right.
When he first sort of joined UKIP under the Alan Sked days, etc., he's always had a little bit of an axe to grind with the Conservative Party. And I think for him, he's happy to pummel the Conservative Party into the dust as a kind of, I proved you wrong. Because the Conservative Party, is particularly under like David Cameron, etc., was very like anti-UKIP and anti-Farage. They called them Fruit Loops and God knows what else. So he would never. I don't think you'd ever wear the Tory badge, but he'd definitely want all the Tories to come to him. Again, but that's quite Trumpian itself, right? Trump loves turning people round. You know, RFK was saying that Trump was, shouldn't have been in office. J.D. Vance compared Trump to Hitler. Like, and these people are now cabinet ministers in the, cabinet members in the US government, holding high positions. And I think Farage likes the idea of turning people who didn't previously like him to being on his side, really.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess that's. Yeah. I guess most of us probably don't really understand that kind of, perspective of just power play in that particular way, because it's like
It's vindication, Jay.
Yeah, if you hate someone with vitriol, you probably don't want to then share the rest of your the next 4 years sat down in a room with them. Do you know what I mean? Like the people that you've been campaigning against the whole time, you probably don't want to add them to your dinner list for the upcoming occasions of every moment of every year. So yeah, I guess it's a bit different when you play in politics and you kind of have to make certain allowances or whatever, but yeah, it just seems like it's a very strange thing going on here. A very strange move. It does benefit them. I understand how they definitely could do with more help. Let's say that for reform, they need a hand. You need a hand, guys.
But you're right. It's political playing. It's power playing. These people are making conscious decisions on the choices of basically both their political ideologies and agendas and also their political careers, right? Suella Braverman, Robert Jenrick, Nadeem Zahawi, Andrea Jenkins, Tim Montgomery, Danny Kruger, all these people, the list goes on and on. I've made a particular calculation that both ideologically, they're better off served in the Reform Party as a vehicle to push their form of ideology. And also for their careers, they're more likely to hold their seats. They're more likely to be elected into Parliament. They're more likely to come with the power and prestige that comes with. So there's a lot of factors at play at this moment in time. And as you say, Reform Party could do with having people who are both media trained, who can go out there and maybe run a department, even if they run it poorly. They can actually run, again, Nadeem Zahawi, Suella Braverman, etc., all cabinet ministers, right? They have got experience, which Reform didn't previously have.
Well, let's face it, they couldn't have Ian Cooper or Peter Mason-esque types.
That was probably the alternative.
Yeah.
And we've seen how disastrously that's gone at a local level, with every single council raising council tax after complaining that they weren't going to do that, and the variety of scandals just in Staffordshire alone, but across the county. I mean, I saw in Leicestershire that one of the MP for one of North Leicestershire or something like that called out a cabinet or reform councillor for tweeting about standing with ICE recently and all that. So yeah, this is the quality of councillor you've got. You don't want that being the quality of MP.
No, exactly. Speaking of seats and people holding on to their seats, and it might reform, I've probably saved the best bit till last, because it's time for the second by-election.
I had the button ready in this one.
of the Parliament.
Wow.
This is in the Greater Manchester seat of Gorton and Denton, and it's the outgoing seat of Andrew Gwynn. Do you remember the name Andrew Gwynn, Jay?
Yeah, that rings a bell. Why
because he was suspended from the Labour Party for a string of offensive social media, mainly WhatsApp messages in a WhatsApp group called Trigger Me Timbers.
Oh yeah, of course. How could I forget that amazing WhatsApp group name?
Yes. But he's decided now that he's going to step down. I suspect because the results of the investigations that were going on by the parliamentary watchdogs and things are probably about to come out, and he's gone, actually, I'm going now to save the hassle.
He claims ill health, just for balance, but again, we'll chuck it all out there. But the vote will take place on the 26th of February, so it's not long, as always with these things. And the campaign for Labour, being the party that holds the seat, has already started with a complete row. Yes, most people will know of a political figure by the name of Andy Burnham, who is currently the mayor of Greater Manchester. Now, he wanted to be the candidate in this seat, but the Labour National Executive Committee, or NEC, voted to block his candidacy 8-1, and this includes the vote of a certain Keir Starmer, who voted to block the candidacy. Now, they claim that they don't want to, risk the Greater Manchester mayoral seat. They don't want the public taxpayer to pay the large amount of money it would cost to run an election in Manchester, and they want to use that money to fight elections elsewhere. I would imagine the local elections. However, there seems to be a bit more of an underlying reason if we're going to go into speculation.
Yes.
Andy Burnham has made it very clear that he has ambitions for Labour leader. Most people forget he actually did run for Labour leader back in... the last time he did was back in 2015, and he lost quite roundedly to Jeremy Corbyn. But in terms of where Labour are now, he is a man that is viewed with more traditionalist values of the Labour Party compared to that of someone like Keir Starmer, and he would most certainly be mounting a leadership challenge come May, but his only obstacle is the fact that he needs to be an MP. Now, he's gone to apply for a Manchester seat. Keir Starmer has gone no, and it seems to everyone that it's Keir Starmer protecting himself, and there's been a lot of politicking here on both the side of Andy Burnham and Keir Starmer. So I want your take on this, Will. Where do you stand on this situation?
Well, let's be very honest about this. Andy Burnham running for MP in a Greater Manchester seat, having built up a very, very strong image and reputation as mayor, puts him in a very strong position to win that seat. Let's look at it. Let's look at the black and white electoral side of things first of all. Across the board of the left and the Labour movements, there is quite a strong perception that Andy Burnham has done a good job as the mayor. He's done some things that are extremely progressive in terms of trying to tackle homelessness, in terms of the B network, the transport networks around Manchester. That's a really bold move to bring in integrated transport in the way that he has done. He does things like we're seeing Zoran Mandani do in New York, where he's travelling into City Hall in Manchester on the tram with normal people, and he's taking casework and things on the trams and going into the city. He's made himself popular all around Manchester. he's listened. And I think he's learnt a lot from when he was last in Parliament, and he's turning those skills into actually somebody who is not a Richard Bergen or a John McDonnell or even a Jeremy Corbyn type of figure, but what he is a very level-headed, progressively minded individual who could bring the Labour Party back together again, because the Labour Party is riddled with factionalism, and it stems right the way from the top. From a leadership that came in, promised that it was going to bring unity, and in fact it's done exactly the opposite. With all its entire focus seems to be to keep out thoughts and ideas of ordinary members and the grassroots and and to keep out traditional Labour values in the way of preserving this kind of soft sort of neoliberalism that really would be almost at times you think would be in sort of better placed in sort of a liberal sort of agenda, and never mind a sort of liberal conservative sort of agenda. Starmer is grotesquely unpopular. He's lied. He's misled people, and I think Andy Burnham can see that and is actually saying, and has made it pretty clear before, that the leadership is not doing itself any favours. It's not protecting the party's best interest. So if the reason for standing is as everybody wanting to stand is as what everybody suspects it is or was, then in some respects you can't really help but admire that actually think, do you know what, we can do better than this. We can deliver the real change that we promised to people. In terms of his candidacy being blocked, that is no more than what I would have expected from the current administration of the Labour Party. It really isn't. They are known. They have a reputation for blocking candidates using any way possible. We had thousands of local government candidates that were blocked by the NEC because they didn't share the party's values. Yet they'd been councillors for years, Labour councillors for years, Labour members for years. We had parliamentary candidates who had previously been MPs who've actually took the party to court because they challenged the fact that the Labour Party, that the Labour machine was using systems like Anony Voting, an online voting platform, to bring in, to effectively manipulate the results of the parliamentary selections. I'm thinking of seats in Wales and, of course, Sam Tarry's seat being the two prime examples of that. So this is no more than what was expected. I could see this coming. When he announced his intention to run, and all the speculation last week, and sadly, it's no shock that it's happened.
I'm not shocked. In some way, I kind of almost. I don't want to use the word admire, but it's the brazenness of Keir Starmer's strategy here, which is. He knows that May is going to be a bloodbath, right? Wales is up for grabs. Yeah. And I think, it's way things are looking right now. Wales it's going to be a wipeout. The local elections are probably going to be a wipeout. I mean, some seats in that are protected because of LGR, which I mean, come at kind of a fortunate time, really, for Keir Starmer. But there's still going to be multiple local elections that happen that are going to be a very difficult night for the Labour government. And it's going to put a spotlight on Keir Starmer and the way he's run the party. There has been, I think there's a communication issue. I think sometimes the problems of the Labour Party are overblown, but he is unpopular. The party's unpopular, and voters are going to vote that way.
Yeah.
And Andy Burnham, as you say, is someone. I've just been to Manchester. Like, I was there. It's it's a nice city. It's well run. It's good. It's a good place to go visit, and that is because of the work that the Greater Manchester Authority has done under the leadership of Andy Burnham, who knows that area well. He's a northerner, which works in his favour. As you said, he is very much more connected to the people and is a more level-headed and slightly more progressive figure than someone like Keir Starmer. I mean, Keir Starmer's bought himself a few months, but this is politicking on both sides, and it's interesting to see this political power play happening in the public eye. And you said it's an example of that factionalism you were talking about earlier.
It's the factionalism that Starmer and his allies, people like Morgan McSweeney and all these sorts of people, and even disseminating down into the local parties, will tell you is not there. It's not there, and that was gone. That was there under the Corbyn years. It's absolutely not the case. That was what when you read books and you read books like Paul Holden's book, and you start to understand the thinking behind the Starmer project, drafted up by Labour Together and headed up by Morgan McSweeney, who's now obviously who's obviously been behind him in Downing Street. You start to see that this was not about a Labour Party winning an election to help working people. This was about a Labour Party almost pressing the self-destruct button. And what you're starting to see is, yes, they got into government. They got into the government. Let's be absolutely clear about this, because this is what the media, this is what they don't tell you. They got into government because the Conservative Party was so unpopular, not because the Labour Party, what they were promising, was popular. Now what you're seeing is the Labour Party dying on its feet, and a lot of them are too deluded to realise the fact that they are suffering one of the slowest and most painful political deaths in modern history.
I mean, I would maybe argue on the flip side, I think the British public have gotten used to chopping off a prime minister's head every year.
Yeah.
And I think it's not unusual for a prime minister to stay in power for more than a year, really, and for like more than 18 months. But you're right. At the current rate of knots, it's a managed decline.
Yeah.
And that's not going to, if there's not a turnaround. I mean, Keir Starmer's basically making his political gamble on himself, saying that, no, I am still the right guy to run the party, and I'm going to do it despite of what the polls and everything say. If he's able to turn it around by whatever he might decide to do, then he will be in a better position in 6 to 8 months. But if he's not, then this is going to look like, again, a long series of political errors he's made during his time as the Prime Minister.
And if they lose as well, if they lose the seat, that's just going to add more pressure to him. He might buy himself the time if they win, but if they lose the seat, his decision and the NEC's decision, the people around him, that it's going to look so bad on him. And it never mind the fact we've had all this stuff out today about the business rates U-turn. It's a welcome U-turn for the small businesses and the pubs. But that was another bad decision to add to the great long list of bad decisions. And it does look like a managed decline, and it annoys me because the Labour Party had a real opportunity here to actually get in. And there is some good things that have been done whilst they've been in office, but they could have gone so much further. But because of this managed decline that's happened since, and if you go back in the history, you'll find it started back in 2017, just after the 2017 general election. Since this attempt to manage decline the Labour Party, they've slowly let their voter base down. They've slowly let working people down, all because they want to raise a factional war on the left.
Jay, thoughts?
Yeah, they ain't great, are they? The a lot of, like you say, a massive list of things that they've basically just done wrong ever from the get-go. Can see why people aren't happy. We're in a weird situation now because they, like you say, they got in because, everyone was sick of the Tories. They promised, that part of their campaign was change, and then they came in and they just they did a lot of things worse. They did a lot of bad changes, like the amount of things that they did change that were not wanted by anybody. And then now we've got a situation where, the Conservative Party's kind of got just a different name and a different leader. So, like, what a weird. I don't think this is the change anyone was really hoping for that we'd have. A year or so down the line. It's like Labour's just kind of failed on all its promises, done potentially worse stuff. And the Conservatives have now got it's like a different football kit that they're wearing essentially. So,
They
actually are selling football kits as well.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because that's what every serious political party does: is sells merch.
Yeah, of course, yeah. What a strange time. I mean, when you compare it to the politics of what is going on over the pond, maybe we're fortunate to just have people that are just in general incompetent and they're making terrible policy decisions, but they're not that terrible, I suppose. So, it's just what a weird time to exist right now.
This is not even a policy decision. This is a political machination. This is a gamble. This is peak politicking from both Andy Burnham and also Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
Who because this seat, if Andy Burnham goes standing, I'm not saying that Andy Burnham wouldn't be a good MP. He's been an MP before. I'm not saying that he wouldn't care for his constituents, but this is clearly a vehicle for him to put that leadership challenge in place. That's blatantly clear, right? And Keir Starmer recognises that and gone, no, this is not happening, because he recognises the threat that causes if he does allow that.
But we've seen him shut down so much in his time there. Do you know what I mean? From the get-go, from when he first got into power, you could see that's, it's like, it's his way or the highway for a lot of people.
That's an insight into how the Labour Party's run. Yeah. Internally, that's an insight into how it's run.
So, I mean, it's not really that shocking that he's going to try and keep that,
I go through my union. I know how to escalate something to the top. You can't do that in the Labour Party. You have to go. I could contact a member of my NEC through the union and expect a reply and know I'll get a reply.
Yeah.
Whether I agree with it or not would be another story, but I know I will get a reply.
Yeah.
Can't do that here. In fact, you turn up at the Labour Party's head office and you're told to go away.
Right.
Their exact words are, "We don't speak to members of the public."
Wow.
I'm not a member of the public, as one member from Burton actually turned around and told this staff member, "I'm not a member of the public. I pay your wages." And it's true, but that is how the Labour Party's run.
Yeah, there's not something not right about that. Yeah.
So, before we clock off, a full list. We will have a full list of candidates, loonies and all included, in non-poll if they do put their names forward in the Gorton and Denton by-election. By-election.
Oh, we might see, and the thing is, we might see some big figures.
Well, we have a GB News broadcaster for Reform already.
Oh, who is it?
Where's it gone? Matt Goodwin.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Exactly.
Oh, I followed him because, again, he did some really good work writing about populism and the rise of populism. So I quoted his work a lot in my dissertation on the rise of UKIP.
We don't have Zach Polanski. It's a local Green. We thought it was everybody was expecting it to be Zach Polanski.
I thought it might have been Zia Yusuf, but Matt Goodwin's yeah.
I think on that note, before Tom
remembers what he was going to say.
Yeah.